Hey, it's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More, and we are outside a flip we just purchased. So it's always a fun day when we get to walk through a new house and show you all the work it needs, the interesting things going on with it, and talk about the numbers as well. So this one is really ugly from the outside, but it actually has a pretty interesting floor plan, has some additions, and it's only a 2-bedroom right now, but I'm wondering if there's any way we can get a 3-bedroom out of it. And of course, we'd love to hear from the audience and viewers, and if they have any ideas, would love to hear them on this too. This was bought from the MLS, but we got a really massive discount on it. So, and if you recognize that house, that blue house across from the farm right here, we flipped that house a few years ago. That was a 2-unit, used to have a yellow door. They painted it black. And then, yeah, that was actually a tractor with a cornfield in the house next door. Of course, we got a city code violation for weeds in this yard, or at least a courtesy warning. Technically, the previous owners did, so we're getting this mowed right away, making sure we don't have to go to court for that, because I did that recently, as many of you know, and was fined. So have to be careful with that. I just got another warning on a rental property I have as well for weeds too. So something you've got to be very careful with in Greeley right now. This house has a very interesting porch, obviously an addition, has some massive windows that almost look like screen doors, but it's kind of nice to have a little porch like this. Obviously, we need to fix some electrical, some roofing, some interior, but I think we're going to keep it. I think we're going to make it look a little better and have just a little sitting room for people, not really sitting room, but, entryway, foyer, would that be the correct term to call this, when you go to the house. And like I said, it's kind of interesting inside. I'm 95% sure this space here used to be a garage, and they converted it to living space, has kind of some cool vaulted ceilings. The trick here is, though, it's a good size for a dining room. I'm not sure if anybody with a 2-bedroom house needs, a 20-foot wide dining room. So the space isn't used amazing, but it's got big rooms. Like I said, I just wish there was a place to get a 3rd bedroom. Maybe we could. It'd be real tough to make it legal, though, which we'll talk about here in a second. This house does need windows, so that's actually, it might look sort of new, but they're old wood windows. They're all junk. Needs a new roof. Obviously needs flooring, paint. Has hot water heat. So usually those hot water boilers last forever, but we'll get that checked out, of course. Has kind of a hodgepodge of doors and wood paneling and different stuff going on throughout. Ceilings are different, but it's got big rooms. Like this room right here is probably 12 by 14 or 15. It's a huge room for just a 2-bedroom house. So it does have some good features as well. Now, I purchased it for $222,000, plus I got a commission because I was the agent who bought it. It was listed for $285,000. Don't know how to use that window. Might have to unlock it, but that's for another day. So it came up for sale. It was for sale for a few weeks, but just from the wording, I could tell needs work, sold as is, motivated seller, yada, 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 that they would take a lower offer. So Nikki and I, my project manager, went to look at it, saw it needed a lot of work, ran the numbers, figured we need to get it for like $220 for it to be any kind of deal. I think I offered like $210. And I usually don't offer on properties that much lower than listing price, but because of the wording and what they were saying in the comments, I knew they were actually pretty motivated. Just the price didn't reflect it. And so I submitted it, not thinking much would happen. And then they came back and said, hey, we won't do that, but we'll do $222. And I said, looked at my numbers, looked at everything, I'm like, okay, I think we can do that. I think it's worth at least $320, maybe up to $340, depending on if we can add a 3rd bedroom or not. And so I said, let's do it. So we had a verbal agreement, and nothing got signed. And the agent came back to me and said, I'm sorry, it's an estate or some, I think it's an estate, and they changed their mind. They don't want to sell for $222. They want $232 now, or something like that. I don't know if that's the exact number. I said, nope, not going to do it. I'll stick at $222. And they said, okay, then I guess we don't have a deal. I'm like, all right. So we didn't have a deal. They put it back in the market. I think it went under contract, fell apart, obviously probably because of the condition. Maybe had an owner-occupant trying to buy it, and their loan wouldn't qualify because of the issues this property has. Who knows? And they came back to me and said, okay, they're willing to do $222 again. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And he's like, they just said, write up a contract, send it to me. Sent them a contract, and nothing happened. Again, they didn't accept it, and they said, no, we decided we're just going to wait again. So I'm like, oh my God. So I try not to get emotionally involved in these, and so I'm just like, okay, whatever. And so I think like a few weeks later, they came back to me again and said, okay, this time we're really, really serious. We'll do 222. And so they wrote up the contract, signed it. I signed it. We had a deal. It was supposed to close in 3 weeks, and taking, I think, 5 weeks because they didn't have the estate sorted out. They had to do some work on their end. So, but eventually, as you can see, we finally bought it. Got it for the price it is, I think, will work for us. But it does need some work, as you can see. The kitchen is junk. The windows, doors, paint, flooring, all of that. Now, there are some chips, so that might be a bonus. It's still got a super duper old sink, which is kind of cool. But I need some opinions on this. It's so shallow, I don't know how usable that sink is. If somebody would ever want that. It's like one of those things that's cool, but you wouldn't ever really want it. So let me know. Now, we've got more additions in the back. So we've got the laundry room back here, which is nice, because it does have kind of a cellar, crazy, murder room-ish basement. We'll show you here soon. But it's got a dedicated laundry room, which again is pretty rare to have in a 2-bedroom house like this. Its own sink and everything, and little heater down there, which is important when you have plumbing. Of course, it's got some beautiful rust and issues there. We'll have to do some plumbing work here as well. I think you saw there was some galvanized pipes under the kitchen sink. But then in the basement, there's a lot of copper pipes. So we'll see how that works. But anyway, there's this addition off the back too, which could kind of be a bedroom, except the laundry room comes off it and the stairs come off it, which makes it tricky. So not sure about that option either. We rarely do fencing. We rarely do, spend the money on that. This might be one we spend the money on just because it's got an apartment building literally like 3 feet from its property line. So I think, having a bit more privacy might be nice. Kind of a weird picnic area right there. And then there's another parking lot, and your neighbors are all pretty close. Has some biggest trees. Needs some trimming, but nothing too crazy. We will not go crazy with this yard, putting in berms and trees and bushes and all of that like you see on HGTV. We'll probably mow it, and we may or may not throw some water on it and see if it turns green. But we are coming up to the time of season where we have to stop watering. It's Colorado. You have to winterize stuff. So actually, now that I say that, we probably won't water it at all, and hopefully we'll get it done and finished and sold before next spring comes along. Here's the basement. I'm clearing cobwebs, if you're wondering, with the umbrella I found. I already walked into a few of them. This seller probably walked out to the outside before, but with their addition, they enclosed it. And it has kind of a decent room here. It's not awful. There's no windows or anything, but you definitely don't want it to be your bedroom. They left me a Bible. Find lots of those. And actually, this is kind of one of the rare times I found something that's kind of cool. A tech deck. My son plays with those, or at least he used to. He might be past those now, but I'll take it home and see if he still wants it. And then, of course, they left us so many clothes. And I'm always curious. I have to pick up a few things. Ant poison. Okay, then. Don't know what that is exactly, but we'll put it back in the box. Of course, you've got your CDs. People love to leave pictures of their family, which drives me crazy. Please don't do that, but they do it anyway. All kinds of other random stuff down here. And it gets worse. There's way, way more stuff we'll show you in the back. This is not the murder roomish kind of part of the basement. There's another part that's very murder roomish. And there's the boiler that, like I said, is all copper. All those lines are copper. So the boiler and most of the plumbing looks good. It's just that some of that stuff under the sink and other spot were galvanized. So I don't know how far it goes or why they didn't replace all of it, but the boiler stuff all looks good. More crawl space junk. I don't know what that said. There was something written on that beam. I didn't notice that before because I couldn't really see that. I was just pushing my camera back there. So yeah. And here, this is the more murder room spot back here. Chairs, random stuff. and clothes everywhere, just piles and piles of clothes. I don't know if they tried to dig this out or if there was just a dirt pile that's kind of like was falling over a little bit. The foundation itself looks fine, but this is kind of a tricky situation with the dirt and stuff in there. And once we get it all cleared out, it'll be a lot easier to figure out what's there. So that's the house. We'll hopefully get started on it here pretty soon. I've got kind of a few projects going at once. We've got multiple flips we're working on. We've got the Aplex I just bought. So right now I'm thinking, I'm actually a little bit short on guys working on stuff. So hopefully we can finish up with some of the other flips, get started on the Aplex, get started on this one, and get moving along, because I hate projects just sitting there, although it happens all the time.